So in this dedication prayer, and sometimes elsewhere, you will come across this phrase, the four causes of samsara. Yeah, four causes of samsara. There, in particular, is referring to Gampopa's identifying of four things, that prevent us from achieving Buddhahood. So the first one is attachment to this life, attachment to this life, then attachment to samsara's pleasures, the temporary satisfactions that, time to time, here and there, we gain, and then we think, oh, everything is good now. Attachment to this life is like the focus of only here, only now. First, there is that problem. So that is one of the causes. Then the second type of cause, and this is not cause in the sense of like active, but rather kind of passively causing you to wander in a state of confusion. Then the next one is attachment to to samsara, not recognizing samsara as samsara. Then the third is attachment to personal welfare, personal peace, personal satisfaction, which is in this context identified as the goals of the hearers and the solitary realizers. Here, right, all these four things, this life, pleasures of samsara, the personal level of peace and freedom, right? They're not like bad. They're not bad. It's just that if you have these three, any of these three, then Buddhahood is not possible. Yeah? If the goal is Buddhahood, then having any of these three will impede the attainment of Buddhahood. And then the fourth one is not knowing the method of how to get to Buddhahood. It's the fourth cause. So these are the four causes. Okay, now, the eighth teaching. On page 91, if you have the physical book, otherwise it's the eighth teaching. The realization of one's own mind is virtuous throughout the three times, throughout past, present, and future. The precious Lama taught the following. In the beginning, the perfectly complete Buddha, the exalted one, aroused the resolve to attain supreme awakening. Then, in the middle, he gathered the accumulations of merit and wisdom over incalculable kalpas, and in the end, he manifestly, that means like clearly, visible to everyone, he manifestly and fully awakened. It's a little awkward. He manifestly and fully awakened to unsurpassable, perfectly complete Buddhahood. So this is at the beginning level, need to generate bodhicitta. In the middle, need to accumulate merit and wisdom for a long, long time. And then in the end, to manifest, to bring forth the result of Buddhahood. He then set the three cycles, the three turnings of the wheel of Dharma in motion. And these three turnings of the Dharma wheel. In summary, they were taught, as in the teachings were taught in stages for the gradual practice of what is positive. The virtuous roots that are virtuous in the beginning, middle, and end. And gradual here need not mean slow. Gradual here, the connotation is as we mature, as we progress, it happens in stages. You could go through the stages very fast, but nonetheless, there is a way in which these realizations unfold. And what are we practicing? We are practicing the virtuous roots that are virtuous in the beginning, the middle, and the end. And on this point, the Buddha taught what is virtuous in the beginning, middle, and end was taught by the previous Buddhas, will be taught by future Buddhas, and is taught again and again by present Buddhas. If you practice according to what the Exalted One taught, meaning the Buddha, that which is virtuous throughout the 3 times will arise as consummate well-being and happiness for yourself and others. Everything that the Exalted One taught is encompassed by what is virtuous throughout past, present, and future. Nothing in it, not even the slightest bit, is different from that. How so? The Exalted One said that he teaches a dharma that liberates mind and insight. By desire, freed from desire, and that he teaches a dharma that liberates mind and insight by aversion, freed from desire, and delusion, freed from desire. So this is, in the Tibetan, it's a kind of a difficult to translate. So therefore, in the English, it's also like, what does this mean? Truth is, I don't even know exactly. I can kind of make out, even looking at the Tibetan, which is very limited, my ability to look at the Tibetan, and then to look at what has been translated here. But what I can maybe briefly say, first, if you look at the footnote, right? First, there is this expression here that is translated as liberates mind and insight. Liberate minds and insight are actually some technical terms that Gyalpa Rinpoche was using. Relatively speaking, Gyalpa Rinpoche, among the great masters of Tibetan Buddhism, relatively speaking, you could say he really minimizes the use of very technical expressions and terms. Rather, the instructions that he gives tend to be more ordinary, common expressions. But nonetheless, he does use technical terms, because among his disciples, there are those who are trained and educated in those terms. So sometimes he uses those terms to particularly communicate with them, with those who are trained in these technical terms, the classifications, the categories. So he has to use, some of these to reach out to them. And so this is a case of one of those classifications of technical terms. So if you look at footnote 169, so there's 2 liberations. Liberation of the mind, Semkin number dowa. Namjo is liberation. Semkin number dowa. So the liberation of the mind refers to liberation of freedom, released from the 5 main obstacles to meditative absorption, foremost of which is desire, with the others as its associates. So So sensual, kind of sensual sensual experiences, sensory desire is chief among these five main obstacles. They are the five main obstacles to the mind settling into a state of calm and ease, and remaining steady. So sensory desire, seeking for pleasure through sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, hoping for satisfaction, and therefore searching with the tongue, searching with the ears, searching with the nose, searching with the eyes, searching with the body for satisfaction. Then it makes us very busy, and then incapable of just resting at ease. The second obstacle is ill will. So feelings of hostility, resentment, hatred, bitterness, having grudges, anger towards someone, towards a situation, and even towards yourself. Okay? Now, compared to the first, this sensory desire, this second one is easier to relinquish because its negative effects on us is very obvious. We can see that more easily. No one quite walks around saying, I like my anger. But we have come up with all kinds of ways to celebrate chasing sensory pleasures. So even those teachings that say, you can leave all your senses open and have all the experiences, just don't get attached with love, that kind of teaching. But then the teachings that say, you can be angry and at ease, instantly we're like, I don't think that's possible. But the allure of finally finding that object of sight or that object of smell or object of taste or object of touch or object of hearing that will finally make me happy. Oh, that promise is very addictive. But ill will, the second obstacle or hindrance, these are called the five, normally translated as the five hindrances. And these days, greatly emphasized in Theravada traditions of meditation. Somehow Gampopa uses this early lists and emphasizes them, but then in later Tibetan Buddhism, they know what this is, but this is not so centered. But I think it's good for us to follow Gampopa Rinpoche's lead to go back and looking at these five, he calls them the five main obstacles here in this section. So here then ill will. Then the third is sometimes translated as laziness or sloth, dullness. Basically, it's talking about a lack of initiative, specific to, in the case of, since these are identified as hindrances to the mind settling, then principally is talking about kind of laziness, lack of seriousness with regards to the determination to settle the mind, to steady the heart. The fourth one is restlessness. Restlessness and worry. The mind being scattered. So then finding, looking for things to kind of distract ourselves. Then the fifth one is called doubt. This is a very particular type of doubt. It's the doubt that you can say is a doubt with regards to our ability. Kind of a self-confidence, lack of self-confidence type of doubt, lack of conviction. So you may say, well, how do I then practice the opposite of this? How do I rid myself of these 5 hindrances? Well, the first thing is some determination that I can do this. And then while engaging in meditation, in formal meditation, to specifically look out for these 5 conditions arising. So this is related to the liberation with regards to the mind, and it is to free our mind from these 5 obstacles. Then liberation of discriminating insight refers to liberation from any form of ignorance. So this is what the footnote provides us. So in this section, he goes on to say, what does this mean? And then frankly, when it goes into what does this mean, and then you get excited, you think, oh, okay, this will become clear. No, it's not. I can admit that, beyond my pay grade, it says, beyond my pay grade, which is not saying much because, most things are beyond my pay grade. When you realize this, okay, then it says, what does this mean? Your present mind itself abides effortlessly as primordially unborn emptiness. And so he says, actually, this present mind is already in the state of the innately, from the beginning, primordially birthless emptiness. Remember I mentioned before, it says, it's not the case that right now, it is not like this. And through practice, you will make your mind primordially unborn emptiness. No, that's not the case. As it is right now, whether for a Buddha or for a being in the deepest of the hell realms, both minds are effortlessly in the state of the primordially unborn emptiness. So what's the difference between Buddhas and sentient beings? Not in whether the mind is or is not birthless emptiness. It is for both cases. It's a matter of recognition. Do we recognize this or not? And even when there is recognition, There are still differences between Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So Bodhisattvas have some kind, right? To become a first Bhumi Bodhisattva is some kind of directly seeing this truth, seeing this, the reality of this. But then still there's big difference between the first Bhumi Bodhisattva and a Buddha. And the difference is the Bodhisattva of the first Bhumi still needs to stabilize and gain confidence in what has been realized. Then putting aside, bodhisattvas and their bhumis, and bring it to you and me, our level, we could. It's accurate. It's not exaggeration to say each of us have glimpsed this. Now, not to the degree, perhaps, of the first Bhumi Bodhisattva seeing this nature, but each of us have had some kind of encounter with this truth already. But then we don't habituate. We lack trust that this is so. So then quickly we get distracted again and we forget. Now then he says, when you realize this point, then the mind is detached from desire because in its nature, it doesn't have desire. By its nature, this mind doesn't possess the qualities of desire. It's just a accidental, temporary showing up. Due to its very detachment, due to its very freedom from this hindrance, this obstacle of sensory desire, the mind then can be free from aversion, because that mind, in its nature, is free from aversion. Here, I think the translation may be, we can clarify it. Now I'm starting to make a little bit more sense, So maybe I'm getting paid more now. Due to its very detachment from desire. I think maybe something along the lines of in the same way as the mind is naturally free from desire, then the mind is also naturally free from aversion, because it is empty of aversion. And the mind is naturally detached, thus it is detached from aversion. And likewise, the mind is detached from delusion in the same way as the mind is naturally already free from delusion. So, because why? Because it is empty of delusion. So in this sense, he's saying, instead of relating to these hindrances in a way that might further strengthen the hindrances. Now, how do we end up relating to the hindrances in a way that would strengthen the hindrances, which is we try to dispel the hindrances with no understanding that these hindrances have no reality. They are only temporarily arising, manifesting delusions. So in a way, right, it's not so hard. It doesn't need to be so hard to not be affected by these hindrances. Especially if we deeply trust. And this trust is based on first having tasted it, and then trusting in the guru who introduces that to you, then right, you understand that the mind is primordially birthless emptiness, and therefore all these adventitious, that's the meaning of the word adventitious, meaning it is not innate to, it is extraneous to, it is temporary. All these adventitious states have no real power to obstruct the emptiness and the clear-like nature of mind. Then now, it's not so much that you pretend that the hindrances are not even temporarily here. You recognize that one or the other of these hindrances have temporarily turned up, but temporarily is what you need to not forget. And therefore, sweep them away, because it's sort of like saying you recognize the difference between, if you look at a fabric, a cloth, right? And you look at that and you go, oh, I need to wash this. Why? Because it's burgundy. No, if you say that, then hopeless, Wash, 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 wash. The burgundy is not going to go away because it is its nature, so to say, right? In this limited analogy. But if you look at this fabric and you see like a stain from yesterday's coffee, you're like, oh, I need to wash this. Now it's possible, because the stain that you're seeing, is not part of the design of this. It's temporary. You can wash. Coffee stain is gone. Or milk stain, maybe more obvious. Coffee stain maybe also not so obvious. The yogurt stain, oh yes, you can wash. Then it'll be gone. So these hindrances are like those types of stains. When you abide in that mind where the arising and manifestations of the three afflictions are thus absent, a mind free from the three afflictions, so not only absent on the essence level, which it has always been absent of these, but even temporarily no longer arising, then samsara with its three lower realms and so forth, this ocean of suffering is done, abandoned. Then everyone who has the three afflictions can be brought under your influence and will become capable of abiding in the antidote to the three afflictions, which is the meditative absorption free from the three afflictions. Meaning, when you have abandoned these hindrances, not only on the essence level, because on the essence level it has never been there, but on the temporary manifesting level, when you have even removed them from that level, then anyone with these three afflictions, you are able to relate to them and to help them. But only if you have abandoned. Only if you have become freed from. So we won't start the next section. I'm delaying my firing, remember? Towards the end of this teaching, he says, when is one ready to transmit the Dharma? So I want to remain employed for a few more days, so we don't need to rush to get there. Because when we get there, it will alert the Dharma Human Resources Department, and then the dismissal letter may come very quickly. Changju Sem Chorin Poche Ma Ge Ba Nam Ge Gu Ji Ge Ba Nyam Ba Me Ba Ya Go Ne Gong Du Be Wen Shou. Hello, Christina. Bye bye, everyone.